The Rugby Business Network is a global organisation that connects senior business people who put their resources back into the rugby community in a sustainable way. Our members share values, the values of rugby, and we connect them online or at our events. We can also make personal face-to-face introductions to business leaders who want to do larger deals together. Visit therugbybusinessnetwork.com and apply to become a member today.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Rugby Business Network podcast, proudly brought to you by CMME Mortgages. They have been helping clients in the UK get the best possible mortgage since 2004, and CMME Mortgages are a market leader when it comes to providing mortgage advice, which focus specifically on clients with complex income like business owners, contractors or affluent professionals. For more information, visit cmmemortgages.com/rugby. Well, it's great to have you join us once again. Thank you so much for downloading and listening to the podcast. Now, our guest for this episode is incredible, as she is one of the UK's most high-profile sportswomen. She is an England women's rugby player and captained the team to victory at the 2014 Rugby World Cup in France, for which she was awarded an MBE for services to the sport in the same year. She is also the highest England point scorer of all time, as she edges closer and closer to achieving a prestigious 100 caps. Away from the rugby field, she is the founder of her own speakers business, KM10. It's none other than Katy Mclean. Katy, it's a privilege to have you on the Rugby Business Network podcast. Thank you so much for giving up your time to chat about your careers, both on and off the rugby field.
No, thank you very much. It's, like you say, it's an absolute pleasure to be here and to kind of share some of my stories.
Wonderful. Well, Katy, from what I know, you started playing rugby very early on, 5 years old. What is it about the sport which attracted you from such a young age? And when did you realise that you were better than most of the other women out there on the rugby field?
I think for me it was a big part of my family growing up. You know, I was kind of in that rugby environment from being very small. My granddad used to take me down to watch my dad and my uncle play, and I kind of just got the bug of how inclusive it was. I think when you're a young girl, and especially 20 years ago, getting old, you don't really think about kind of how inclusive the game is. And I think as I got through it and got a bit older, that for me is the reason why I love it. It was because how inclusive, how varied it is, the people and the opportunities you get from the sport. I think probably I got to about 16 and realised that actually there was an international side, a women's side, and that was something that I really wanted to be part of.
Well, you grew up and you got better and better as a rugby player, to the point that you made your England debut in 2007. Up until that point, though, is that one of the greatest moments of your career, or is winning the World Cup or even playing at the 2016 Rio Olympics, those moments, those ones stand out more for you?
Yeah, I mean, when you kind of look at them, I think for me, my cap in 2007 was one of those things that when you work into that point, you never think will come. I was on the bench on that day and kind of getting to that point, I'm never going to get on, and actually to get on and to play and to share that with my family and friends was amazing. And like you say, obviously winning the World Cup and lifting that trophy, I think probably would be if I had to pick one, the highlight of my career. I think the work we put in as a squad and everybody in that team, and kind of a relief, when you look at the history of the women's game, we'd been beaten by New Zealand in 3 previous World Cups, so it's kind of really nice to put that to bed and finally say, look, we're world champions. And then you talk about Rio and the Olympics, and for me growing up, that was never a dream. Rugby wasn't obviously in the Olympics at that point, and then kind of when it did go in, I kind of assumed to be a bit old to play sevens. It's very much a young kid's game, and so to get that opportunity to represent Great Britain was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it was. And let's look at the 2014 Women's Rugby World Cup, Katy. What do you think it was about the England team that year which made them better than the rest?
I think for us, we got a lot of our prep right. I think building into it, our culture across the team was really strong. We worked very hard about being really honest and open and getting to a point where actually we could challenge each other. And I think that really helped in high pressure situations. So actually, even in that final against Canada, we knew that even when the game got as close as 11-9, that we just had to stick to our processes. And we worked so hard to know what our plan would like, what it would look like when we were under pressure, and how we could kind of take control back. And I think that made a massive difference. I think previously for us, we'd got to really close games. Probably actually maybe the pressure got too much and we'd made bad decisions, and that had kind of put ourselves and the more pressure. Whereas in that final, we were very clear about what we needed to do, and we went out and executed.
And then on the opposite end of the scale, what do you believe was perhaps lacking in the team, which saw you lose to New Zealand at the World Cup final just last year?
I think that for me was just it came down to one game of rugby. You know, it's a brilliant game, and it lasts for 80 minutes, and for 45 of those, like we were in control, and we were kind of really sticking to our plan. I think all testament to New Zealand in that final. They kind of changed their game plan after half time, and they really came out and executed it. And for us, we weren't quick enough to identify what they were doing, but then to go on and stop that. I think when you look at games, as much as the tournament our build-up had been really good, we were in a really good place, and obviously went into that final thinking we could win it. Actually, all testament to New Zealand, they were a bit smarter on the day, and actually what they did was very, very effective.
Now, the difference between the two World Cups, personally for you, Katy, was that you were the captain in 2014, but then you weren't at the 2017 tournament. Could you share with our listeners the reason behind this change and how this decision possibly affected you at all?
I think for me, I had an opportunity post-2014 to go and play, to get a full-time contract, and to go and have an opportunity to play sevens, and I knew taking that, and obviously speaking to our coaches, that the 15th game would continue to move on, and obviously they needed to make sure that the 15th game was in a strong place. And obviously Sarah Hunter had been vice captain in 2014, and she kind of stepped up to captain and did a fantastic job and is doing a fantastic job. So I think for me it was an opportunity of, do you want to stay in the 15th game and maybe stay as captain? They might have made changes anyway, or go and have a new challenge and kind of see if I could do something different in the sevens game. And I think at that point it was a very easy opportunity. I never thought I'd have a shot to go to the Olympics, and wanted to kind of go and have a go at that. And I think the beauty about the team that we have now is actually, yes, I may not be captain, but I can still support and help and kind of use my knowledge and experience to help Sarah, but also kind of lead within the team without necessarily needing to have a title.
Very interesting. Well, Katy, one of the greatest moments, I'm sure, of your career is when you and the 19 other teammates were offered that professional contract after the World Cup in 2014, having previously played solely at the amateur level. What did that achievement mean to you personally and for women's rugby as a whole in the country?
Yeah, I think 2014 was massive, especially on the back of the World Cup win, and then the opportunity for sevens to go full time. I think it was a dream come true. I was a primary school teacher by trade. So the opportunity to kind of not have to balance two jobs almost, and especially in the build-up to 2014, people were sacrificing a lot and committing a lot of time to try and training. So they're getting up at 6, training in the morning, going to work, training late at night. So I think the opportunity for that to happen, I think what's happened now is that a lot of nations have obviously taken that on, and it's kind of become a lot more of the norm. And I think for us as an England 15 squad, that's obviously where we're hoping to go back to, because we've had an interesting run between 2014 and current day. We were full time at sevens, 15s became full time for a short period of time, and then we've gone back to the ultimate amateur status. I think for me now, I really want to see the game, and especially within England, because you look at France, New Zealand, they're doing that as the norm. Their girls are both 7s and 15s full time. You want to see England kind of follow that way and really put in a plan where actually that's just the norm. It's not just a special occasion in a build-up to a World Cup or an Olympics or a Europeans. It's actually girls can go and play rugby and they're full-time athlete, and that's what they do, and they don't have to worry about a job.
Absolutely. And from what I understand, Katy, I mean, you struggled with this adjustment of playing rugby professionally. I mean, some of our listeners, and you just touched on it there, they'll know that you were a primary school teacher, but then with these drastic changes in lifestyle, you actually consider dropping out of the program. Is that right?
Yeah, so I think for me, and it's something when you look back on hindsight, when I moved into the program, so I left school in the October to go into the full-time rugby program. So probably from the October till about January, February, I really struggled. I'd relocated from home. So I moved in with a couple of girls, and I moved from the northeast down to London. And just having all that time, I think, like I said, especially in the year building up to the World Cup, we've committed so much time to fit as much training and working as possible that actually I didn't have a lot of time just to sit and think. And we came into a full-time program, which actually was probably less training because it was of a higher quality, but you just got a lot more time to rest and put your feet up. And I just wasn't used to having that time on my hands. I'm quite an active person, and I like doing, I like being involved, I like challenging myself. And actually I just found that by 2:00, I'd lifted, we'd done our skills, we'd done our rugby stuff, and I had all this free time that actually I don't know what to do with it. And it was pretty hard. It was kind of a little bit of like, do I want to do this? Would I be better going back to school and kind of continuing in the manner that I've been used to, of kind of balancing both? And I remember sitting down with Simon Middleton and he was like, you're not. He knew that from me. He was like, you're not happy, So I'm not. And he's like, just stick at it a bit longer. Yes, it will take time to adjust. And I think just the fact that he'd acknowledged that, he could see that I was struggling, and kind of just to have offload that and admit that actually this, because you think about it, this is this massive dream of what I've always wanted, and now I'm in it and I'm not enjoying it. I was like, oh God, somebody else could have this spot, and you kind of have all the feelings associated with that. So and to be fair, I stuck at it once the tournament started to come. It was a lot easier, and it was probably the best decision I made, was to stick at the programme.
Brilliant. Well, you're taking it all in your stride. I mean, you still represent England, obviously, and you also play club rugby. We'll touch on that in a moment. But you also run your own business, KM10. Tell us more about it and some of the challenges that you may have experienced along the way to getting the company off the ground and where it is now today.
Yeah, I think when I set it up, I have a big passion, like I say, I'm a teacher, but for inspiring the next generation and kind of being able to talk about the journey that I've been on. I think our journey in women's sport has seen such a big change and such a big growth that actually, for me, when I was growing up, my role models were all male. So we had Johnny Wilkinson, Dan Carter. The only kind of female role model I had was Sally Gunnell, and she was an athletic. So it was really important to be able to go and talk to young children and kind of an adults as well. The business isn't just about schools, but kind of corporate and educational, about the challenges that you face as a female in sport, and especially in a male sport, what's typically male dominated, and just to kind of share my journey and hopefully to inspire more people that actually the hard bits are the ones, if you stick at them, there is kind of gold at the end of the rainbow, and it's worth it. And I think at the beginning, especially for me, the value that I had was to see my worth. To be able to say, look, I have a good story and I've experienced all these challenges and I have got something to offer and to share, and to kind of want to push that. I still probably now struggle with that element of it, but actually just kind of getting out there and speaking to more people, you realise how similar sporting and business stories are, and actually that the more we talk about this, the more, again, it becomes the norm, and the more you see people kind of reaching their potential.
Definitely. And Katy, do you find that you're able to focus as much time as you would like to on a KM10, or is still most of that focus on your professional rugby career?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's still a lot on my rugby, and definitely the kind of the business element of it kind of takes a bit of a back seat, and it's kind of more when it comes up than it, rather than me being proactive in it. I think, like you say, my rugby career is still extremely important to me. I've still got things that I want to go on and achieve. So trying to get that balance can be difficult, especially in the season.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Now, as a former captain of a national sports team, what are some of the main lessons on leadership that have stuck with you and that you are busy using in the business space? I think
the biggest lesson that I learned was about kind of being true to your own values. I think it's very easy that when you get put in kind of a leadership role, like you kind of want to please everybody, and having difficult conversations can be hard. And for me, I found that actually in my early days, I moved a lot between what I thought people wanted from me as a leader, rather than being, actually, this is who I am. These are the styles that I'm really good at, and maybe these are the styles that I need to work on. But actually being true to my values and really being strong to those, I think it makes it a lot easier for people to work with you, to know what you're about. Rather than kind of constantly chopping and changing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Now, let's look at your club rugby now, Katy. Recently, you moved from Darlington Mowden Park Sharks to Loughborough Lightning. First of all, what was the reason for the move?
I'm getting a bit older now, and I'd always been a kind of a one club girl. I'd always played in the North East, so regardless of where I lived, I'd travelled back up to Darlington. And I think it just came to a point in my career where I think I needed a change. The club had been in Darlington so supportive of me for many years, and I kind of felt that actually, for me, I needed to do something that was about my rugby career, and sometimes that whole saying about a rest as a change is as good as a rest really applied. I kind of did a bit of research and kind of looked about what I needed as an athlete, and did a bit of research about the clubs in my area as well, and and actually Loughborough really kind of shone for that way that the S&C, they can provide obviously the ground, the facility at the university, the coaching and medical support. And for me was a massive kind of tick that actually is what I needed right now, and to go and probably I want to keep improving, and obviously, like you say, would love to get that 100th cap. And it's just kind of about ticking the boxes of what was really important to me.
And from what I know, Katy, you are based in Manchester, so there is obviously a bit of a travelling from there to your new club. I'm sure there must also be some costs involved. Who covers this?
Yes, I think that's the biggest battle for me at the moment. Like we touched on, is the fact that we're still amateur, we're not funded. We've gone back from the professional contracts; they don't exist anymore. So at the moment, I'm self-funded. So like you say, the biggest cost I have at the moment is my travel expenses, and kind of that's probably the area where, for me, I really need to look at trying to get a sponsor, getting some more support in that'll help me allow to keep playing and to kind of basically achieve the dreams of 100 caps and playing more regularly for England.
So in order to help you try reach this dream of 100 test caps, how could the members of the Rugby Business Network and our listeners possibly help you out?
So I think for me, I'm looking at some financial support, but it's not in a case of kind of just obviously in that area of just taking money from people. It's being able to kind of offer something back, like I say, that maybe through the business of more awareness for them to be associated with somebody like myself. Can I do some bits of work, some bits of speaking for them, and basically just trying to get some more funds in that will allow me kind of to reduce my travel costs almost. And I think that's the big thing, is trying to find a company that I can work with, or companies where I can offer something back, and it's a two-way relationship.
Well, that's keeping in the spirit of the Rugby Business Network of how can I help you. Well, speaking of the RBN, Katy, you were recently a speaker at one of our events in London. How would you describe that experience?
Oh, it was absolutely phenomenal. I've done a lot of corporate speaking, but never anything like that. And I think the beauty of being involved with it was just how varied it was. It was having a great location in London. You know, you listen to the stories of charities, obviously of a real business, and then a bit of sport. And I think just the ability to mingle and mix with people from such varied backgrounds, but like we touched on at the beginning, how similar stories can be, where people kind of start in you don't think what you're going to achieve, and then you end up being the MD of Fox Foods. And it was just amazing to kind of think that journeys are very similar, even though the outcomes are very different. And just to have the opportunity to be part of the Rugby Business Network was great.
It was a great privilege having you there on the evening as well. Now, finally, Katy, I won't give away your age, but people, they can easily find that information out on the internet. What I will say is that you're obviously closer rather than further away from the age that many players, they start to retire from rugby. Have you had any thoughts yet about what will be your focus after you hang up your rugby boots one day?
Yeah, there's probably three things. There's obviously a big passion to stay involved in the game, and to do that in kind of the most in influence for most people. So I'm big passionate about spreading the message of rugby. I think I still have a big interest in working with young children and kind of the benefits of sport. And I think for me, it's just trying to find out that where I can offer the most. I think, like we've touched on, I feel like my story and the lessons that I've learned, I don't want them to kind of just end up staying with me. And it's about being able to kind of offer that out and speak to people and be in a way that kind of helps inspire the next generation, but also for me to learn more about business in the world outside of sport and outside of rugby.
That's so wonderful to hear. Well, Katy, it's been a real privilege having you join us on the Rugby Business Network podcast. Thank you for sharing your stories and your experiences in rugby and in business. And we hope that our listeners will be able to assist you with those travel costs.
That's great. Thank you very much.
As well as connecting business people to each other, the Rugby Business Network helps rugby-related charities to meet business people. We also run our own Life After Rugby program, which helps pro and ex-pro players for free to transition from pro rugby to business via work placements or jobs, or starting their own businesses. Visit therugbybusinessnetwork.com today and help rugby to help people.